Hey everyone, and welcome. It's Sophia here, and I am so excited to share this story with you all. You are absolutely not going to believe what happened to me this morning. It's one of those things that just makes you shake your head and laugh, you know? So, picture this. It's early morning. I'm rushing around trying to get ready for work, coffee's brewing, and I'm practically flying through my morning routine. I grab my socks, barely looking, and dash out the door. Fast forward to about an hour later. I'm at the office, feeling pretty good about my productive morning. I cross my legs under my desk and, wait a second, something's off. I glance down and, honestly, I almost burst out laughing right there in the middle of the office. One sock is bright pink with polka dots, the other is striped blue and green. I mean, talk about a fashion statement. The sheer ridiculousness of it just struck me as hilarious. I felt this surge of joyful embarrassment, if that makes any sense. And you know what? It actually brightened my whole day. It was a reminder not to take everything so seriously. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. Remember, new videos are released daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you look around your space and there's that one spot that just nags at you? For me, forever, it was my bookshelf. It wasn't messy, per se, but it was chaotic. A vibrant explosion of literary randomness. A testament to my scattered reading habits, let's just say. And it finally got to me. Really got to me. It was whispering to me in my sleep, I swear. Organize me, it'd murmur, I'm begging you. Dramatic, I know, but you get the picture. So, last Saturday, yes, last Saturday, the day I vowed to conquer Mount Bookshelf. I woke up with this strange sense of purpose. The sun was streaming in, you know, that kind of golden, dust-mote dancing sunlight. And I just knew this was it. This was the day. First things first, coffee. Strong coffee. Because let's be real, tackling a bookshelf of my magnitude requires serious caffeine. While my coffee brewed, I kind of just stared at the beast. It was this tall, dark wood bookcase, stuffed to the brim. Hardbacks, paperbacks, a few stray notebooks, a half-finished knitting project, don't even ask, and, I kid you not, a rubber chicken. Don't ask about that one either. It's a long story. Anyway, coffee in hand, I took a deep breath and started pulling books out. And, oh my goodness, the dust. It was like I'd unearthed an ancient civilization. I swear, I sneezed about 100 times. But as I started handling the books, something really interesting happened. It became less of a chore and more of a trip down memory lane. I found this battered copy of Little Women, the spine practically disintegrating, and I remembered reading it under the covers with a flashlight when I was supposed to be asleep. I could practically smell the old paper and feel the rough texture of the cover. Then there was this huge, intimidating-looking biography of Marie Curie that I'd started but never finished. It made me feel a twinge of guilt, like I'd abandoned a friend. And then, oh, this was a good one. I found a postcard tucked into a poetry collection. It was from a friend I hadn't spoken to in years, from a trip we took to the coast. The picture was of a blurry sunset, and on the back, she'd written, "Remember this?" And I did remember. The salty air, the sound of the waves, the way we laughed until our stomachs hurt. It was like a tiny, perfect moment captured in time. So, yeah, the whole process was taking way longer than I anticipated. I wasn't just organizing books, I was unearthing memories. Each book had a story, a connection to a particular time in my life. It was surprisingly emotional, you know? I even teared up a little bit, which, let's be honest, isn't all that unusual for me. I'm a bit of a sap. After a couple of hours, the floor was covered in books. It looked like a literary bomb had exploded. My living room was a disaster zone. But, amidst the chaos, I started to see a system emerging. I decided to organize the books by genre, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and then alphabetically within each category. It seemed logical, right? Although, halfway through, I questioned my sanity. Have you ever tried alphabetizing hundreds of books? It's a workout for the brain, let me tell you. There were definitely moments of frustration. Like, Where did this random cookbook come from? And why did I own 3 different copies of Pride and Prejudice? Seriously, 3. But there were also little victories. Finding the perfect spot for a beloved book, like fitting the last piece into a jigsaw puzzle. It was oddly satisfying. And, oh, the discoveries. I found books I'd completely forgotten I owned. Books I'd been meaning to read for ages. Books I'd borrowed from friends and never returned. Oops. It was like a treasure hunt in my own living room. The rubber chicken, by the way, ended up on top of the bookshelf, guarding my newly organized kingdom. It felt right, somehow. A little absurd, yes, but perfectly me. By the time I finished, it was late afternoon. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the room. My back ached, my fingers were dusty, and I was completely exhausted, but I also felt lighter. Like I'd accomplished something significant. More than just organizing a bookshelf, I'd reconnected with a part of myself. I'd revisited memories, rediscovered passions, and, dare I say, rekindled my love for books. Looking at the finished product, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. It wasn't just organized, it was curated. A reflection of my literary journey, my intellectual curiosities, my hopes, and my dreams. It wasn't perfect, mind you. There were still a few oddballs sticking out, a testament to my eclectic taste. But it was mine, and it finally felt right. So, yeah, that's the story of how I organized my bookshelf. It sounds kind of silly when I say it out loud, like, who spends an entire Saturday organizing books? But it was more than that, you know? It was a journey of self-discovery, disguised as a cleaning project. And honestly, I highly recommend it. You never know what treasures you might unearth, what memories you might rediscover. So, go ahead, tackle that overflowing bookshelf, that cluttered closet, that messy drawer. You might be surprised at what you find. Not just in your physical space, but within yourself. And who knows, you might even find a rubber chicken or 2 along the way. You never know, right? Okay, so, you are never going to believe this story. It all started with a phone wallpaper. A phone wallpaper. I know, right? Sounds ridiculously mundane. But trust me, this spiraled. It was a Tuesday, I think. Yeah, definitely a Tuesday. One of those Tuesdays where the coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet, and the world feels slightly fuzzy around the edges. I was scrolling through Pinterest, you know, just procrastinating like a responsible adult, and I stumbled across this image. It was, well, breathtaking. Picture this. A vibrant, swirling nebula, all purples and pinks and blues, with these tiny, sparkling stars scattered across it like cosmic dust. It looked like something out of a dream, a little window into the vastness of space right there on my phone screen. I immediately downloaded it. I mean, who wouldn't? It was like holding a piece of the universe in my hand. And for a while, everything was fantastic. Every time I looked at my phone, I felt this little jolt of wonder, this sense of awe. Like, wow, the universe is huge, and I'm tiny, and that's okay. You know what I mean? That feeling of perspective? But then, things started to get weird. The first thing I noticed was the dreams. They became intensely vivid, filled with these swirling colors, echoing the nebula on my phone. I was floating through space, past shimmering planets and distant galaxies. One night, I even dreamt I was having tea with a friendly alien who had 3 eyes and a penchant for Earl Grey. It was interesting, to say the least. I woke up feeling disoriented, like I'd actually traveled across the cosmos. Then, there were the coincidences. Small things. At first, I'd be thinking about a particular song, and then it would come on the radio. Or I'd be craving a specific type of chocolate, and a friend would randomly show up with a bar of it. Just thought of you, they'd say, completely oblivious to the cosmic machinations at play. I started to feel like I was living in some kind of bizarrely orchestrated reality show. And the colors, everything seemed more vibrant. The sky was a deeper blue, the grass a richer green. Even the gray concrete of the city seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly luminescence. It was like someone had turned up the saturation dial on reality. I remember walking down the street one day and noticing the way the sunlight caught the leaves of a tree, turning them into these shimmering emeralds. I stopped dead in my tracks, just staring. A woman bumped into me, muttering something about needing to watch where I was going. But I couldn't help it. The world had become this breathtaking spectacle. Then came the glitter. Yes, glitter. I started finding it everywhere. On my clothes, in my hair, even in my food. At first, I thought I was going crazy. I vacuumed religiously. I scrubbed every surface, but the glitter persisted. It was like a sparkly, iridescent plague. I even started checking my pockets before leaving the house, just to make sure I wasn't inadvertently spreading the glitter epidemic. Have you seen glitter anywhere? I'd ask my friends, trying to sound casual. They'd look at me like I'd sprouted a second head. One evening, I was having dinner with my friend Sarah. We were at this cozy little Italian place, tucked away on a quiet side street. The air smelled of garlic and oregano, and the candlelight flickered warmly on the tables. We were chatting about work, relationships, the usual stuff, when I noticed it. A tiny speck of glitter, shimmering on the rim of my wine glass. "Sarah," I whispered, leaning closer. "Do you see that?" She squinted. "See what?" "The glitter," I hissed, pointing at the offending sparkle. It's everywhere." Sarah, bless her heart, tried to be supportive. "Maybe it's just festive," she offered weakly. But I knew better. This wasn't festive. This was cosmic. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the nebula wallpaper glowing faintly in the darkness. I started to think about the dreams, the coincidences, the colors, the glitter. It was all too much. I felt like I'd somehow tapped into some strange, hidden frequency of the universe, and it was starting to overload my circuits. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I changed my phone wallpaper. I know, right? Anticlimactic. But I swear, the moment I switched back to my old, boring photo of a sunset, it was like someone flipped a switch. The world instantly returned to normal. The colors faded, the glitter vanished, and my dreams became blessedly mundane again. The next morning, I woke up feeling normal. Like I'd finally landed back on Earth after a long, strange trip. I still can't explain what happened. Maybe it was just a weird coincidence. Maybe I was sleep-deprived and hallucinating. Or maybe, just maybe, that nebula wallpaper was a portal to another dimension. Who knows? But one thing's for sure. I'm never messing with a cosmic phone wallpaper again. Stick to sunsets, people. Stick to sunsets. Now, I haven't told this story to many people. They'd think I'm crazy, right? But you seem like someone who might understand. You've got that look in your eye, like you've seen some strange things yourself. So, tell me, have you ever experienced anything like this? Anything unexplainable, a little bit out there? Because honestly, after this whole glitter-infused, cosmic journey, I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, the universe is a lot weirder than we give it credit for. And honestly, that kind of excites me. It makes me wonder, what other secrets are lurking out there, just waiting to be discovered? Maybe it's not about the wallpaper at all. Maybe it's about being open to the possibility that the world is full of magic, even in the most unexpected places. Even on a Tuesday. Even on a phone screen. You never know what a little change can bring, do you? It could be glitter, galaxies, or just a good story to tell over a cup of tea. And this, my friend, is definitely one for the books. So, what do you think? Crazy, right? Or just a little bit magical? Let me know what you think. I need to know I'm not the only one who sees sparkles sometimes. And, while you're at it, pass the biscuits, would you? This cosmic storytelling has made me hungry. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember, the more you practice, the luckier you get. It's like unlocking hidden pathways. The more you explore, the more opportunities open up. Each conversation, each attempt, brings you closer to fluency. You might stumble, yes, but every step forward builds confidence and creates its own little bit of magic. Believe me, the feeling of understanding and being understood is truly rewarding. And you know what? One of the simplest ways to practice is by singing along to your favorite English songs. It's so much fun and incredibly helpful for pronunciation and rhythm. Imagine yourself cooking dinner or taking a walk while singing your heart out. It's like a mini English lesson woven into your day. You're not just memorizing words. You're experiencing them, feeling the music, and absorbing the language naturally. Honestly, it felt like magic when I started doing this. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Struggling to find the right words quickly is a common challenge, and it's perfectly okay. It happens to everyone, believe me. You might understand everything someone says in English but freeze when it's your turn. That moment of searching, that slight hesitation, it's all part of the learning process. It's like trying to find a specific spice in a packed pantry. It takes time, but you'll get there. You will not believe what happened next when I started practicing regularly. I was at a coffee shop, and I overheard someone speaking English with a beautiful accent. It sparked my curiosity. Have you ever tried speaking English with native speakers? It can be a bit nerve-wracking at first, I know, but also incredibly rewarding. It's like stepping into a whole new world of language and culture, and it opens up so many doors for connection and understanding. So, tell me your stories. Okay. So, you know how sometimes you just look at a space in your house and think, this needs help. Well, that's exactly how I felt about our dining table. Not the table itself. It's a beautiful old thing we inherited from my grandma, solid oak, you know, the kind that could probably survive a small earthquake. No, it was what on the table that was driving me bonkers. It had become, well, a dumping ground. Mail, keys, a half-finished knitting project. Don't even ask how long that's been there. A stack of library books threatening to topple over, a stray sock, on the dining table. Honestly, it was like a visual representation of my brain on a Monday morning. Scattered, overwhelmed, and slightly dusty. And the worst part? We couldn't even use the table for, dining. We'd resorted to eating on the couch, balancing plates precariously on our knees while watching TV. Not exactly the elegant dinner parties I'd envisioned when we first got the table. So, last Saturday, I woke up with a fierce determination. This table, this symbol of domestic chaos, was going down. I declared it, Operation Dining. Table Reclamation Day. Dramatic, I know, but I needed the pep talk. First things first, coffee. Strong coffee. I padded down to the kitchen, the early morning sun streaming through the window, catching dust motes dancing in the air above. Yes, even the air above the dining table felt cluttered. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a small comfort in the face of the impending organizational Everest. I took a deep breath, grabbed my mug, and surveyed the scene. Where to even begin? It was like an archaeological dig of discarded daily life. I started by simply picking things up, one by one, like an archaeologist carefully unearthing ancient artifacts. Each item told a story. A crumpled receipt for a ridiculously overpriced coffee, a reminder of a particularly stressful day. A postcard from a friend's trip to Italy, a pang of wanderlust. A tiny, dried-up paintbrush evidence of my daughter's artistic endeavors. The usual debris of a lived-in life. As I sorted, I started to create piles. Belongs elsewhere, needs a home. Trash, recycling, and the ever-growing, sentimental but ultimately useless. The belongs elsewhere pile grew rapidly. Mail to the office, keys to the key hook, library books back to their rightful place. The needs a home pile was trickier. Where did all these random things belong? This, my friend, is where the real work began. I rummaged through drawers, cupboards, and even under the bed, searching for suitable homes for these orphaned objects. I found a pretty little box for the remote controls. Why were there 3 remote controls on the dining table? A decorative bowl for keys and loose change, and a file folder for the mountain of paperwork. It was like a game of Tetris, trying to fit everything into its designated space. The trash, recycling, pile was the easiest, a satisfying purge of unwanted clutter. The sentimental but ultimately useless pile, however, was a minefield of emotional baggage. A dried-up flower from a Valentine's Day bouquet, a ticket stub from a concert we loved, a handmade birthday card from my daughter. These were harder to let go of. I ended up taking pictures of some of them, a way to preserve the memory without the physical clutter. You know how it is, you want to keep those memories, but you also want a clear surface. It's a struggle. After what felt like days, but was probably only a few hours, the table was clear. Completely, utterly, gloriously clear. I ran my hand over the smooth, polished wood. It felt like a miracle. I could actually see the beautiful grain of the wood. It was like rediscovering a long-lost friend. But my work wasn't finished. Now came the fun part, decorating. I wanted the table to be both functional and beautiful, a place where we could gather as a family and actually, eat. I imagined candlelit dinners, board game nights, and maybe even the occasional elegant dinner party, once I figured out how to cook something other than pasta. I started with a simple centerpiece, a low bowl filled with smooth, gray stones and a few flickering candles. I added a small vase with fresh flowers, tulips, my favorite. Their vibrant colors popped against the dark wood. I then placed a beautiful, woven table runner down the center, adding a touch of texture and warmth. I stepped back to admire my handiwork. The transformation was remarkable. The table was no longer a dumping ground, but a warm, inviting space. It felt lighter, somehow. Not just physically lighter, but emotionally lighter too. Like I had cleared out not just the clutter on the table, but also some of the clutter in my mind. Guess what happened next? That very evening, we ate dinner at the table. Actually sat down, on chairs, with plates and cutlery. It felt strange, almost ceremonial. My daughter kept staring at the table, like she'd never seen it before. It's so empty, she said, with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Empty in a good way, I assured her. And it was. It was empty of clutter, but full of potential. Full of the promise of shared meals, laughter, and connection. It was a space waiting to be filled with life. And you know what? It stayed that way. Mostly. Okay. There's the occasional stray pen or a forgotten coffee mug, but it's nothing like before. I've learned that maintaining a clutter-free space is an ongoing process, a small act of self-care, really. It's about creating a space where you can breathe, think, and connect. And sometimes, it all starts with something as simple as organizing the dining table. Who knew, right? It's funny the little things that can make such a big difference. I mean, it's just a table, but it's also so much more than that, isn't it? It's the heart of the home, in a way. And having it clear and inviting it makes everything feel a little bit brighter. You know what I mean? Okay. So, grab a cuppa, settle in, because this story is a good one. It's about getting gloriously, wonderfully lost, and finding something unexpected. Something magical, almost. It happened a few years ago, when I decided, on a whim, to visit the Cotswolds. You know, those picture-perfect English villages with honey-colored stone houses and rolling green hills? Yeah, that Cotswolds. I'd planned a meticulously detailed itinerary, you see. Color-coded, even. I'm a planner, what can I say? But sometimes, the best things happen when you ditch the plan, right? And boy, did I ever. It all started with a charming little bookshop in Bourton-on-the-Water. I'd been browsing, inhaling that lovely old book smell, that mix of paper and dust and time. When I stumbled upon a vintage travel guide. It was this faded, teal-colored thing, with a worn cover and brittle pages, and it spoke of hidden pathways and forgotten villages, places off the beaten track. It was irresistible, so, naturally, I bought it. And right then and there, in that dusty little bookshop, my carefully crafted itinerary went straight out the window. I decided to follow this old guide, to explore the Cotswolds like a true adventurer, not a tourist ticking off boxes. Now, this guidebook, it was, shall we say, optimistic in its descriptions of clearly marked paths. Let's just say, clearly marked, in 1952 might not translate to, clearly marked, in the 21st century. I started my off-road adventure with a spring in my step, a vintage guidebook in my hand, and absolutely zero sense of direction. The initial walk was lovely. The sun was dappling through the leaves, birds were singing, it was idyllic. I passed fields filled with sheep, their fluffy white bodies dotting the landscape like fluffy white sheep-shaped clouds. The air smelled of wildflowers and damp earth. It was perfect. Then, the path started to narrow, and disappear. I checked the guidebook. Follow the winding path, it cheerfully instructed, past the ancient oak with the gnarled branches. Okay, Easy enough. Except, there were about 15 ancient oaks with gnarled branches. Which one? I chose one at random, figuring, how lost could I get, right? Famous last words. Hours passed. The sun, which had been so friendly earlier, began to dip lower in the sky, painting the clouds in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful, yes, but also slightly ominous. My idyllic walk had turned into a bit of a trek. My stomach grumbled, my feet ached, and the charming little path described in the guidebook had devolved into a barely there track overgrown with brambles. Panic started to nibble at the edges of my calm. Where was I? Which way was back? Did I even want to go back? Maybe I should just build a little nest out of leaves and... Okay, maybe not. Just as I was seriously considering the leaf nest option, I heard it. Music. Faint, but definitely music. A violin, I think. Intrigued, and desperate for any sign of civilization, I pushed through the last of the brambles and... Oh, my goodness! There, nestled in a tiny, hidden valley, was the most enchanting sight. It was a small clearing, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. In the center, a group of people were gathered around a bonfire. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees. The air was filled with the smell of wood smoke and, was that, cinnamon? And the music. It was coming from a young woman playing a violin, her melody weaving through the trees, a hauntingly beautiful folk tune I'd never heard before. It felt otherworldly. Hesitantly, I approached. They all looked up, surprised, but not unfriendly. A woman with kind eyes and a warm smile beckoned me over. Lost, dear? She asked, her voice gentle. I explained my predicament, the vintage guidebook, the disappearing path, the impending leaf nest construction. They all laughed, a warm, welcoming sound. Turns out, I'd stumbled upon a yearly gathering of local artists and musicians. They called it the Hidden Valley Jamboree, and it was, as the name suggested, hidden. No signs, no publicity, just word of mouth. They were celebrating the summer solstice, sharing stories, music, and food. And the food. Oh, the food. Homemade bread, roasted vegetables, spiced cider. It was a feast for the senses. I spent the rest of the evening with them, completely enchanted. I listened to their stories, sang along to their songs, and ate until I thought I'd burst. It was like stepping into another world, a world of creativity, community, and magic. I completely forgot about my lost itinerary, my aching feet, everything. As the moon rose, casting a silvery glow over the valley, they helped me find my way back to the nearest village, guiding me along a proper, non-brambly path. I felt a pang of sadness as I said goodbye, knowing I might never find this magical place again. But I also felt a deep sense of gratitude. I'd gotten lost, yes, but in getting lost, I'd found something truly special. You see, the Cotswolds aren't just about pretty villages and rolling hills. They're about the unexpected encounters, the hidden gems, the moments of magic that happen when you dare to stray from the beaten path. And that, my friend, is why I love to travel. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. The unexpected detours. The unplanned adventures, the times you get gloriously, wonderfully lost and find something more. Something you never even knew you were looking for. So, the next time you find yourself lost, don't panic. Take a deep breath, listen, look around. You never know what hidden gem you might stumble upon. You know what I mean? It might just be the most magical experience of your life. Just, maybe leave the vintage guidebooks at home. Just a thought. Learning a new language makes you smarter, braver, and kinder. Think about it. You're constantly problem-solving, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, and connecting with new cultures and perspectives. It's truly amazing how much personal growth happens alongside language learning. It's like unlocking a whole new part of yourself, and it makes you so much more confident in navigating the world. You're not just learning words, you're building bridges. And you know what? One fun and easy way to practice speaking daily is by explaining a recipe step by step. Imagine yourself cooking your favorite dish and talking through each action as you go. First, I chop the onions, then, I add the spices, and you won't believe what happened next. They smelled incredible. You can even do this while walking, pretending you're telling a friend how to make something delicious. It's such a simple but effective way to get comfortable with speaking out loud. Honestly, it feels like magic when you realize how much easier speaking becomes. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? It's totally normal. Worrying about grammar mistakes while talking is something so many learners experience. You might have a perfect sentence in your head, but then the fear of making a mistake creeps in and suddenly, poof, it's gone. I've been there too, and I understand how frustrating it can be. But remember, every little step counts, and mistakes are just proof that you're learning. I remember when I first started learning a new language, I was so nervous about speaking. It felt like a huge mountain to climb. Which brings me to a question for you. What's your biggest challenge while speaking English? Sharing your experiences can really help us all learn and grow together, so please feel free to share in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just need a day off? Like a proper, soul-soothing, battery recharging day? Well, last week, I finally had one, and I decided, spur of the moment, zoo. It's zoo time. It had been ages, literally ages, since I'd last been, probably since I was a kid myself, trailing behind my dad, mesmerized by the monkeys. And there's something about zoos, right? That nostalgic pull, that promise of adventure, even if it's just within the confines of carefully planned enclosures. So, I packed a little lunch, you know, the essentials. A slightly squished sandwich, an apple that was probably a tad too ripe, and a giant bottle of water because, hello, summer, and off I went. The bus ride was an experience. Packed to the brim with chattering school kids on a field trip, all buzzing with excitement. I was crammed in next to a tiny human clutching a stuffed giraffe, who kept poking me with it. It was kind of adorable, actually. It reminded me of, well, me, at that age. All wide-eyed and ready to be amazed. When I finally got there, the smell hit me first. That distinct zoo smell, a mix of hay, animal musk, and, I don't know, popcorn? Is that weird? Zoos always smell like popcorn to me. Anyway, it was a sensory overload in the best way. The sun was shining. The birds were chirping. Some of them real. Some of them probably piped in. Who knows? And the air was buzzing with that electric energy that only comes with being surrounded by hundreds of excited people. I started with the primates, because, honestly, who can resist monkeys? They're just hilarious. There was this one orangutan, just lounging in a hammock, completely unbothered by the crowd's snapping pictures. He looked so zen, like he had achieved a level of enlightenment I could only dream of. I watched him for ages, honestly, just soaking in his chill vibes. I even tried to mimic his relaxed posture, but ended up just pulling a muscle in my back. So much for enlightenment. Then, there were the gorillas. Magnificent creatures, powerful, yet gentle. There was a silverback, just sitting there, observing his troop. He had this intense gaze, like he could see right through you. It was a little intimidating, but also incredibly fascinating. I felt this weird connection, you know? Like we were sharing a moment of quiet understanding across the species divide. Deep, I know. Next, I wandered over to the big cats. The lions were snoozing in the sun, classic lions. But the tigers, oh, the tigers. They were pacing back and forth, these beautiful, powerful creatures, radiating such raw energy. I could practically feel the vibrations in the air. There was something so captivating about their restless energy, their constant movement. It made me think about how much we confine these animals, how different their lives are in captivity compared to their natural habitat. It's a bittersweet thing, visiting the zoo. Lunchtime rolled around, and I found a bench overlooking the flamingo enclosure. Pink, pink, everywhere. It was like a surreal, feathered wonderland. As I munched on my slightly too ripe apple, I watched the flamingos strutting around, their long, elegant necks curved in graceful arches. And, wouldn't you know it, a rogue gust of wind snatched my napkin right out of my hand and sent it sailing into the flamingo enclosure. I watched in horror as it landed right in the middle of their pristine pink paradise. I felt so bad, like I'd just littered in their living room. Luckily, a zookeeper came by a few minutes later and retrieved it with a long net. Crisis averted. After lunch, I ventured into the reptile house. Now, I'm not usually a fan of reptiles. Snakes, in particular, give me the heebie-jeebies. But I figured, I'm here, might as well experience the whole shebang. And, you know what? It wasn't so bad. The snakes were mesmerizing, in a creepy sort of way. Their movements were so fluid, so hypnotic. I even found myself appreciating their beauty, in a scales and fangs kind of way. Personal growth, right there. Then, the penguins. Oh, the penguins. They were my absolute favorite. So clumsy and adorable on land, waddling around like little tuxedo-clad comedians. But in the water? Pure magic. They transformed into these sleek, graceful torpedoes, zipping through the water with effortless speed. I could have watched them all day. Honestly, if I could be any animal, I think I'd be a penguin. Imagine just swimming around all day, eating fish, and looking dapper in a tuxedo. Sounds like the life. As the day started to wind down, I found myself at the petting zoo. Baby goats. Fluffy, bouncy, and utterly chaotic. I spent a good half hour just petting them, their soft fur warm against my hand. There's something so therapeutic about interacting with animals, isn't there? It's grounding, calming, and reminds you of the simple joys in life. Walking towards the exit, passing by the gift shop, naturally, I felt this overwhelming sense of contentment. It was such a simple day, but it was exactly what I needed. A day of wonder, of laughter, of quiet observation. A day to reconnect with my inner child, the one who used to be mesmerized by monkeys and dreamed of being a penguin. The bus ride home was considerably quieter. The school kids were all exhausted, most of them dozing off with their heads resting on their backpacks. I smiled, remembering my own childhood zoo trips, the exhaustion mixed with the lingering excitement of the day. As I stepped off the bus and walked towards my apartment, I realized something. The zoo isn't just about seeing animals. It's about experiencing a different kind of connection. A connection with nature, with other species, and with a part of ourselves that we sometimes forget is there. It's a reminder that there's a whole world out there, beyond our daily routines and responsibilities. A world of wonder, of beauty, and of slightly squished sandwiches eaten while watching flamingos. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need. You know what I mean? Okay, so, you know how sometimes life just happens? You have these grand plans, these visions of yourself as this super organized, disciplined person, hitting the gym every morning, meal prepping like a pro. Yeah, that wasn't me. Not even close. My fitness journey, or should I say, the stumbling, bumbling start of it, is a whole other story. Grab a cuppa, this might take a while. It all started, I guess, with a pair of jeans. Perfectly normal jeans, nothing fancy. But they wouldn't button. And it wasn't a gentle, oh, I ate a little too much pizza, kind of wouldn't button. It was a full-blown, fabric-straining rebellion. I remember standing there in my bedroom, the afternoon sun slanting through the window, highlighting the stubborn gap between the button and its hole. The air hung thick with denial. Maybe they shrunk in the wash? I muttered to myself, even though I knew, deep down, that denim doesn't magically shrink 2 sizes. That moment, right there, was a turning point. Not a dramatic, movie montage kind of turning point, but a slow, creeping realization that something needed to change. I wasn't happy. Not with the jeans, not with the way I felt, sluggish and out of breath climbing a single flight of stairs. You know that feeling, right? Like you're carrying around an invisible weight? It was time to do something. But the gym? The idea filled me with a peculiar mix of dread and boredom. The thought of sweating alongside strangers, the clanging weights, the overly enthusiastic instructors, it just wasn't my vibe. Plus, the closest gym was a 20-minute drive, and honestly, who has time for that? Life was already a blur of work, errands, and trying to maintain some semblance of a social life. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, as I was scrolling through Instagram, procrastinating, as usual, I stumbled upon a fitness influencer. Now, I'm usually pretty cynical about these things, but this woman wasn't selling some crazy detox tea or a ridiculously expensive workout program. She was just demonstrating simple exercises you could do at home, using nothing but your body weight. Push-ups, squats, lunges, planks. Things I vaguely remembered from high school gym class. A tiny spark of hope flickered within me. Maybe, just maybe, this was something I could actually do. No gym memberships, no fancy equipment, no judgmental eyes. Just me, myself, and my living room. The next morning, I woke up with a surprising surge of motivation. I pulled on some old leggings and a t-shirt, rolled out a yoga mat that I'd bought months ago and promptly forgotten about, and queued up one of the influencer's beginner workout videos. Let me tell you, it was humbling. My form was atrocious. I couldn't hold a plank for more than 10 seconds. My lunges resembled a drunken flamingo attempting to take flight. And the push-ups? Well, let's just say they were more like pathetic floor pushes. But you know what? It was also kind of fun. There was something liberating about flailing around in my own living room. No one watching, no one judging. I could curse, I could make weird faces, I could collapse in a heap of sweaty exhaustion without feeling self-conscious. The first few weeks were a comedy of errors. I tripped over the coffee table during a jumping jack. I almost took out a lamp with a rogue kettlebell swing. Yes, I eventually invested in a small kettlebell, feeling very adventurous. I discovered muscles I didn't even know existed, and they screamed at me in protest the next day. Oh, the muscle soreness. I'm telling you, I walked like a newborn giraffe for a solid week. But I kept going. Slowly, painstakingly, I started to get stronger. The planks got longer, the lunges less wobbly, the push-ups, well, they were still a work in progress, but at least I could manage a few proper ones. More than the physical changes, though, I started noticing a shift in my mindset. The morning workouts became something I looked forward to, a little pocket of time carved out just for me. It was a chance to clear my head, to challenge myself, to feel powerful. The endorphin rush after a good workout was addictive. Suddenly, climbing the stairs didn't feel like a Herculean task. I had more energy, I slept better, and, yes, those rebellious jeans finally buttoned. But the biggest surprise? I actually started to enjoy exercise. Me, the girl who'd always dreaded gym class, who'd found every excuse to avoid physical activity. It was like discovering a hidden talent, a secret superpower. Who knew I could actually find joy in sweating? Of course, there were still days when motivation waned. Days when the snooze button seemed infinitely more appealing than a workout. Days when I'd rather binge watch Netflix than do burpees. But I learned to be kind to myself on those days. I realized that consistency wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up, even when I didn't feel like it. Some days, a 10-minute stretch was enough. Other days, I'd push myself to a full hour. The key was to listen to my body and to remember why I started in the first place. My home workout routine isn't fancy. It's a mishmash of YouTube videos, online fitness classes, and exercises I've cobbled together over time. My gym is my living room, my equipment a yoga mat, a kettlebell, and a couple of resistance bands. But it's mine. It's a space where I can be myself, where I can push my limits, where I can celebrate my progress, however small. Looking back, that moment with the unbuttoning jeans feels like a lifetime ago. It's funny how something so seemingly trivial can trigger such a significant change. It wasn't just about fitting into a pair of jeans, it was about reclaiming my health, my energy, my sense of self. It was about realizing that taking care of myself, both physically and mentally, wasn't a luxury, but a necessity. And you know what the best part is? It all started in my living room, with a pair of old leggings, a yoga mat, and a whole lot of awkward flailing. So, if I can do it, trust me, anyone can. You just gotta find what works for you, and don't be afraid to look a little silly in the process. Because honestly, who cares? You're doing it for you. And that, my friend, is all that matters. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching and for staying with me through this video. I really appreciate you spending your time here. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, is there any task you've been postponing for a long time? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans in the comments is a great way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with others who might be working towards similar goals. It's fun to see what everyone's up to. See you tomorrow, and remember to take care of yourselves and keep practicing. Stay consistent, it makes all the difference.